Welcome to AI in 8 minutes or less, your daily AI update. Today we're digging into a really shocking interview with former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. This is a guy who's been at the center of tech for decades, and what he's saying about the next 2 years of AI is a massive, massive wake-up call. So what's he saying that's got everyone so spooked? Well, it starts with this pretty direct warning.
Yeah, he does not pull any punches. Right out of the gate, he's talking about an inevitable AI disaster. And listen, he's not talking about some far-off sci-fi future. He thinks within the next few years, we should actually expect a catastrophe, and we can only hope it's what he calls a small one. This sets the stage for just how high the stakes are in this whole conversation.
So, with that pretty chilling warning just hanging in the air, let's dive into the first big theme from his interview. The global AI race between the US and China. The common thinking, especially in Silicon Valley, is that America has this thing in the bag. But Schmidt, well, he paints a much, much more complicated picture.
What's so interesting here is how Schmidt frames this competition. He totally agrees the US is leading the charge in the really advanced stuff. The software, the foundational models, the super sophisticated chip designs like Google's TPUs. But China, they're not even playing the same game. They're playing a different one, and it's all about dominating the physical world. Hardware, manufacturing, and the raw energy to power it all.
And this isn't just talk, right? Schmidt lays out some pretty mind-blowing examples. China installed a staggering 172 gigawatts of solar power in a single year. It's just wild. They've pretty much already won the race on electric vehicles, and now they're about to flood the market with cheap advanced humanoid robots for just $16,000. So the US might have the smarter software, but China is building the physical backbone of the future at a scale that's almost hard to comprehend.
And that focus on hardware and energy, well, it shines a massive spotlight on what Schmidt says is America's single biggest weakness. It's Achilles' heel, if you will. It's not a rival company or a lack of talent. It's something way more basic, a huge looming energy crisis.
Okay, so get ready for this number. According to testimony Schmidt was part of for Congress, this is how much new electricity the United States has to build by 2030, just to power its AI data centers. Not for our homes, not for electric cars, just for AI. We're talking 92 gigawatts. Let that sink in for a second. And to really wrap your head around that number, this chart just says it all. You see that huge bar? That's the 92 gigawatts we need. And that tiny little sliver next to it? That's what one big new nuclear power plant gives you, about 1.5 gigawatts. The problem is, according to Schmidt, how many of those are we starting to build right now? Basically, zero. The gap is just staggering.
So if we can't build it ourselves, where does the power come from? Well, this is where the conversation takes a really strange turn. Schmidt suggests the US might have no other option but to outsource our energy needs for AI. We might have to rely on places like Saudi Arabia and the UAE to power the training for America's most important, most foundational AI models, the very core of American intelligence being developed overseas. It's a wild thought.
And that really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? If the government can't or won't fast-track new energy projects at some kind of insane, unprecedented scale, where is all this power going to come from? It feels like this huge, gaping hole at the very heart of America's whole AI strategy. Okay, so we've got the geopolitical race, we've got the energy crisis, but let's pivot back to that initial, really stark warning from Schmidt about an inevitable disaster. He thinks one of 3 specific threats is going to cause a mini crisis that will finally wake governments up and force them to take this seriously. And here they are. These aren't far-off threats. He's saying this stuff is happening right now. First, misinformation. Yeah, we see AI-generated fakes threatening our elections every day. Second, cyberattacks. Of course, if an AI is great at writing helpful code, it's also great at writing malicious code. And then there's the third one, the one that really seems to scare him the most, bioweapons. Yep, he singles this one out. The biological threat. Imagine someone taking a virus we already know and just using AI to tweak it, just enough so our current defenses don't recognize it, but it's still just as deadly. He says it's scarily simple for even a small rogue group to pull something like that off. And that idea of a small group having this kind of power, that brings us to the last, really tricky problem here. How do you control something this powerful when the biggest players on the world stage have completely opposite ideas on how to handle it? Schmidt's take is pretty clear on this. He's not losing sleep over Google or OpenAI, the big guys who have a reputation to protect. No, he's terrified of the small, untraceable groups, the ones that can grab powerful open-source models right off the internet.
He argues these free models are already good enough to be glued together and turned into a weapon.
But, and this is a big but, there's a huge counter-argument here. A lot of people believe this whole push against open source isn't really about safety, it's about money. The idea is that these big tech CEOs just want to shut down their free competition to protect their own multi-billion-dollar investments in their closed models.
So this whole debate, open versus close, it leads to what Schmidt himself calls a truly bizarre possible future. A world where the United States locks down its best AI, making it super powerful but also super expensive and hard to get. And then you'd have China doing the exact opposite, giving away its powerful models, which are good enough for most things, for free to the entire world.
And that right there is the massive question we're left with. If you're a developing country and you can't afford America's closed-off expensive AI, but China is handing you a powerful and free alternative, which one are you going to choose? The global implications of that choice, well, they're just immense. Definitely something to think about.